How do you choose the right smart thermostat for your smart home? This is a really good question. You're going to learn a lot in a really short amount of time here, so buckle up. So smart thermostats like these guys are by far one of the most important smart devices you can install in your home. Not only are they just super convenient, but they also have the potential to save you quite a bit of money by properly automating your heating and cooling. Here's how to choose the right smart thermostat for your home. First step is figure out what type of heating and or cooling you have in your house. So the first type is high voltage, and this is usually just going to be heating. Here's the two ways to tell if this is what you have. High voltage setups usually power these baseboard type of heaters. If you have these, you likely have high voltage. Or sometimes these built-in wall heaters. The other big telltale sign of high voltage is you have a thermostat in every single room. You'll see here I'm in my bedroom. I have a thermostat for the bedroom specifically. I have a thermostat for my office and for my bathroom. Before upgrading them, high voltage thermostats will almost always look like this, just a simple dial to allow you to adjust the heat. If you have high voltage, the best option and one of the only options on the market is the Mysa thermostat. You'll see here I have them throughout my entire house. These things have a bunch of features, but they're super easy to use. You simply tap up and down to control the heat. They're compatible with Apple HomeKit, Google Home, and Amazon Alexa. I'll have a link to them in my bio. I absolutely love these things. There are two huge upsides to these high voltage systems. The first one being they're relatively simple to install compared to the other ones. Even if you're a renter, it's really easy to swap out your existing thermostat for one of these. The second one is because you have a thermostat in each individual room, you can control and automate the heat on a room-by-room basis. This means you can get really finite with your automations and get really great energy savings using things like motion sensors and other time-based automations to make sure the heat's only on when that room is occupied and needs to be heated, and then turns off as soon as you leave. Absolutely love this setup, and I have it throughout my whole house. The other type of heating is central heating or HVAC. This one's a little bit harder to pin down, but usually the thermostats will look something like this. The other big telltale sign is you'll usually only have one or two thermostats, maybe one per floor, for your entire house. It won't be room by room like the high voltage ones. Also, if you have more finite control of your thermostats like the fan speed, or if you have AC built into your thermostat, you have central heating. Central heating is low voltage and can be a little bit more finicky to install, but it's usually still pretty straightforward and DIY out of the box. Central heating, I highly recommend the Ecobee line of thermostats. These things are great. They work with all the smart home environments, including HomeKit, and there's a few different add-ons that you can get with them. There's the basic Lite model, which is just the plain thermostat, and it works really well. You could also get it with one of these sensor add-ons. These are really useful if your thermostat is in kind of a weird place like the entryway, but you want some place like the living room to be the place that actually has the temperature regulated. All you need to do is place that sensor in the living room. The thermostat will now use the living room as the baseline of the temperature, whether to turn on or off the heat and cooling. Lastly, there's a premium model, which is a little bit more expensive, but this has a bunch of crazy things like a motion sensor, and it works as a voice control setup for both Siri and Alexa. So if you need a HomePod or an Alexa speaker in that room and you don't want to buy one, you could just install one of these things and it'll double up as that. This is super cool. Now, there is actually a third bonus category, and that's if you have a standalone air conditioning system, whether that's a mini split like one of these, or like even a standalone air conditioner that you mount in the window. You'll almost always be controlling these things with a remote and not an actual thermostat on the wall. Have one of these and you want to automate it in your home, you can get this. This is Mysa's mini split AC controller. This thing looks like a thermostat, but it's actually not. This thing essentially just sits on the table and works as the remote for your AC. So you program it to match the model of your AC. This thing then gives you full smart control over your AC by acting as the remote, and you can also physically control it like you would a thermostat in the wall. This thing is really cool, and it's a really dope solution if you have a standalone AC. So that's how to pick a smart thermostat 101. You will find all the recommendations I talked about in my bio there. I skipped over a lot of details and edge cases here. For example, I have this low voltage thermostat controlling my high voltage heater because I have a weird setup, and you're going to run into stuff like this, but these generalizations I made should cover 95% of use cases. If you have any specific questions, or if you want to see more in-depth videos on things like automations and installs, please let me know. I'd be happy to dive more into it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you in the next video.